After the violence of the shuttle attack, there is a sudden change of mood as we find ourselves on Earth and are introduced to Daniel and Hot Rod. The harmony focuses on the G pentatonic scale. There's much arpeggiation here with implied added ninth and sixth chords. The music is pastoral and peaceful, and whilst less rhythmic compared to what's gone before, there is more of an emotional slant here, as Daniel explains to Hot Rod how he misses Spike, and Hot Rod shows some empathy towards him. The soft EP tones emulate the familiar electric piano sound found in many 80s pop ballads. The cue ends unresolved on a D7 sus4 chord, but in a way there is a sort of resolution with the introduction of Dare being the next musical event in confident G major. We now come to one of the more well-known cues, Autobot Decepticon Battle, which begins when we first see Perceptor, Ultra Magnus and co. The battle chord and battle rhythm start things off appropriately in F-sharp minor again. The conflict theme also makes an appearance, followed by an allusion to the shuttle theme on bright-sounding synths. After a linking bar of solo piano, the Autobot theme appears. This time the melody is augmented rhythmically with occasional syncopation and a more rhythmically active bass line as a contrast. When RC spots Cup and Hot Rod, there is a brief respite with a lighter piano texture before the battle rhythm developed further resumes. We'll hear this version of the battle rhythm more frequently in future cues as the film progresses. Just before Springer and RC start transforming Autobot City, the battle rhythm is hammered out in multiple octaves. Then, when they are both running from Starscream's attack, the conflict theme is heard in G-sharp minor, with a constant driving bass. The tonal centre then shifts down a third to E minor. As the city continues its transformation, the conflict theme plays over a solid rock beat. The accented open hi-hats on the offbeats, as well as a glassy metallic colour doubling the main synth line, add interest and once more shows DiCola subtly developing his material as the plot of the film advances. When the Insecticons fly into view, the battle chord is heard, and we're still in the key of E. This then morphs into a rhythmic pedal in the bass. The rising triads above it lead to a restatement of the chorus melody from Dare, as we see Hot Rod and Cup accelerate towards the Insecticons. A characteristic prog rock style keyboard solo leads to a B chord functioning as a dominant, which guides us back to E minor and the battle chord and battle rhythm. DiCola now introduces occasional triplets in the keys and drums to develop the music further. Blaster's scene has some interesting harmonies, mostly non-functional dominant 7th and sus2 chords moving in parallel motion. As Blaster transforms to contact Optimus Prime, the tension rises again. An incessant ostinato in the accompaniment is almost reminiscent of old-school news ident jingles, or perhaps this is an allusion to Morse code. A curious feature of this one-bar rhythm is that it's a palindrome. If we divide the bar in two, the second half is a mirror image of the first. I don't think this is entirely deliberate. More likely, it's just a happy musical coincidence. Whilst the harmony remains on the same set of pitches outlining a sus4 chord, the bass line rises, and these pitches form the first 4 notes of an octatonic scale. The octatonic scale is a scale of 8 pitches rather than the usual 7, made up of alternating semitones and whole tones. It's very prevalent in film and TV scores, with famous examples being Alan Silvestri's work on Back to the Future and Predator, The Simpsons theme, and sections of John Powell's score for How to Train Your Dragon. When Soundwave's cassettes transform, we hear the bell of the ride cymbal and the occasional 2/4 bar which helps keep the momentum going. Note also that again the harmonies rise by a third. After Blaster's transmission is interrupted, a syncopated version of the shuttle theme, underpinned by a constant pedal E in the bass and reinforced by an inverted pedal E in an upper register in the keyboard, is played as rumble breaks through the dome. We then fade out on a repetition of the battle rhythm and battle chord. The next cue is entitled City Under Siege, although sometimes it's listed as Megatron Must Be Stopped Part 1. This is one of the heaviest parts of the score, depicting the ongoing battle. We start in C# minor, quite an angry key in this context, with a very active inverted tonic pedal in semiquavers, juxtaposed against slow, almost tribal-sounding guitars on bare fifth chords supported by the drums, and there are occasional solo guitar interjections. The conflict theme is heard first in the opening key, and then again in E minor. We hear a repeat of some of the music from the previous cue as the Autobots move the rocket launcher in place. When Daniel climbs up the ladder to look at the Decepticons, the harmony remains on a B-flat major 7th chord for quite a few bars, showing how the Autobots don't know what their enemy's next move will be. When the Constructicons combine into Devastator, DiCola scores this with a C#7, #9, #11 chord. It's an interesting choice because, firstly, this type of chord doesn't appear anywhere else in the film, and also no other G1 combiners are given any screen time. This chord, coupled with a slowed down version of the transforming sound effect, adds to the spectacle. When Devastator moves forward, the battle rhythm is heard in the key of F# minor again. Once more, the harmony moves up a third to A minor. As the Autobots launch the missiles at the Decepticons, a very busy keyboard texture comes to the fore. Under this, a rising melody in the guitars and bass outlines the first 4 notes of another octatonic scale. A passage in 7/4 helps to emphasize the prog rock influence of the score, a big triplet snare fill then leading us to forceful A-flat major chords in first inversion, before settling on an unresolved E major 7th chord. When the other Autobot ship moves into view, the shuttle theme is briefly heard. We're also treated to a nice bit of alliteration from Optimus Prime.
Dinobots, destroy Devastator!
As the Dinobots join the battle, whilst the tempo is the same, the overall pace of the music becomes slower. We find ourselves in F minor, and the shuttle theme is augmented rhythmically as well as being displaced in different octaves. The slower feel is effective, since we are now watching the heavier, bigger robots. Although the Dinobots don't fare too well when pitted against Devastator here, they do redeem themselves later on in the film.
Excuse me!
The harmony moves back to C# minor, followed by a repeat of the music we heard when Blaster was in his tower. This passage also ends unresolved, on a B major chord with added 9th and D# in the bass. At this point, the touch suddenly commences in the affirming key of D major as Prime rolls into battle, finds Megatron, and exchanges classic one-liners with him.
Why throw away your life so recklessly? That's a question you should ask yourself, Megatron.
The next cue, called Showdown, starts when Prime appears to have the upper hand and holds Megatron at gunpoint. The triplets here emphasize the battle and the militaristic nature of the scene. The conflict theme plays on synth strings. The silences inserted in the melody, coupled with occasional time signature changes, gives the music a stop-start effect, describing the uncertainty of what might happen next. The harmony wavers between a bare fifth on C# and G# and a tritone on C# and G natural, which creates tension. The music suddenly becomes more sprightly as Hot Rod intervenes, the scoring coloured with lively-sounding synths and xylophone-like patches. The battle rhythm then plays, followed by an active inverted pedal on F-sharp in the keyboard, a callback to the start of the previous cue. The constant semiquavers increase the tension even further, which are then interrupted by stabbing chords. The conflict theme appears again, with a far more syncopated rhythm against a chromatically falling bass line, followed by the battle rhythm. We then settle on a chord of E, G-sharp, A-sharp and D-sharp. The hi-hats and piano keep the rhythm going, and the bass joins in on repeated low E's. A huge tom fill brings us to a closing passage in G-sharp minor, as Prime summons his last remaining strength to strike Megatron, the harmony dominated by clanging bare fifths over a heavy lumbering guitar line. I'll call this guitar line the Decepticon theme, since it does come back occasionally, though it's not utilised as much as the Autobot theme. The Autobot theme plays, still in G-sharp minor, as Hot Rod moves towards Prime. The military-style triplets also return, then we move up a third to B minor for a steady rock passage in 4/4 time. The Autobot theme is played in augmentation on solo guitar, with some nice counterpoint on the strings, and another tonic pedal this time on B, as the Decepticons board Astro Train. As an aside, let's just take a moment to acknowledge how sad Thrust looks here. At least he seems to perk up later on, though. DiCola then inserts another characteristic interrupted cadence, a B-flat major 7th chord with a sharp 4th in the melodic line, which closes the scene as Astro Train flies off. The third of this chord, D, then becomes the tonal centre of the next cue. And now we come to one of the most iconic and crucial scenes in all G1 Transformers history, the death of Optimus Prime. Vince DiCola has revealed that this cue is the one he's most proud of. It's effective because it's so simple. This kind of scene doesn't need complex, busy music. Keyboards are the focus for the next few minutes, and the drums are completely absent. A high sustained tonic pedal on D starts things off. The melody is slow-moving and diatonic, accompanied by quavers in the piano, in the key of D minor.
Which I always find is really the saddest of all keys, really. I don't know why, but it makes people weep instantly.
The texture is thickened by an added synth, doubling the left hand of the piano. This is repeated with the melody on strings, frequently harmonised in sixths, which are often used to give music more expression. When we reach the perfect cadence, piano, low strings and timpani play the triplet march rhythm from the cue Showdown, demonstrating the effect this battle has had on the Autobots as a whole. short piano and synth interlude in higher registers ends on a C major chord, guiding us to a new section which features the first appearance of the matrix of leadership. The matrix is represented by F major, the relative of D minor. We hear a synth choir embellished with an arpeggiated keyboard figure of F major with an added ninth, creating a glassy and sparkly texture. The F major chord is then warmed up with a flattened seventh in the bass, with the addition of a slow descending glissando on a mark tree as Hot Rod picks up the matrix, the resultant flashing lights foreshadowing his journey in the finale of the film. As this fades, a pedal D in broken octaves on strings starts the next passage. The harmony fans outwards from a central pitch of D, ending on E flat major 7 flat 5. This unexpected chord is subtly coloured with a gentle swipe on a bell tree as the lights in Prime's eyes go out. The next few bars are not used in the final cut of the film, which I think is a shame as it nicely ties things together melodically. The Autobot theme is played solemnly with discreet and expressive pitch bending, as Prime's friends are united in their grief. The high sustained D pedal enters again, and the march triplet rhythm ends the cue, this time very funereal in tone as the colour leaves Prime's body. And with that, what could be considered the first act of the film ends.